Our call for introspection will be Dave Spangler. The Pledge of Allegiance will be Amy Carter. And Harry Zuloff will introduce our guests. David?
Did you get that?
You're supposed to see the shirt. Turn around. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Kiwanis serve with a smile. And we all know what we do in Kiwanis. It's just, we're service and community oriented, etc. So from our membership directory on the back, serving the Roanoke Valley since 1920. And we have done that and continue to do that. The homepage of our website talks about being civic minded and community service is what we do. In the inside of the back cover of the membership, it says the objects of Kiwanis International, and there's 6 points. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go hit the first two. First one is to give primacy to the human and spiritual rather than to the material values of life. Second one is to encourage the daily living of the Golden Rule. Did a little research on the Golden Rule. There are over 60 different translations of the Golden Rule. I'm not going to give you all 60. I'm just going to give you 3 that are kind of a variation. Thank you. First one, treat other people exactly as you would like to be treated by others. This is the essence of all true religion. Second, do for others what you want them to do for you. This is the teaching of the law of Moses in a nutshell. And then the last one is, here is a simple rule of thumb guide for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you, then grab the initiative and do it for them. So let's think about that golden rule.
Thank you.
Would everyone like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Harry Zuloff. I want to welcome 3 guests today. The first guest is Autumn Williams of CHIP, hosted by Betsy. So, and you know what's nice? Under prospective member, yes or no, at least we got a possibly on that one. Betsy, you need to stand up. You're a host. Come on. The second guest, as Mike tries to do technical stuff.
Trying to get you in the picture. Go ahead.
Okay, anyway, Denise Heimel, host by Jean. Denise, there you are. Denise is with Investment Management Corporation. And the other good news, under prospective member, yes or no? Yes. Woohoo! And the last visitor today is Nat Trantham of the Salvation Army. Nat Stand and Greg Lineberger is the host. There he is. And we got a yes too. So we got 2 yeses and a possible. That's about 2.5. All right, welcome everybody. All right.
Thank you. Good job. Good job.
Thank you, Harry. Just as a side note, you know, we check off when we show up, put our check beside our name. The person taking attendance today forgot to check his own name. No, you didn't. We got you covered. Take care of some club business here for just a second. Greg Lineberger has been nominated We were supposed to last week ask for nominations from the floor. Some of us may have forgotten to do that. But to make up for it now, I'm asking for if there are nominations from the floor. This is for a position on the board serving a 3-year term. That's the way we get it done around here, folks. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Now, by acclamation, Greg Lineberger is member of the board and has been confirmed. Thank you all. Well done. Betsy Bohannon has recognition for the folks that participated in the CHIP backpack program with Autumn.
Thanks, Ben. Before I introduce Autumn, I'd like to thank the 42 Kiwanians who donated enough money for us to buy 42 backpacks and supplies for the CHIP children. And Autumn will tell you about this in just a few minutes, but it'll be like seconds. And I'd like to thank Bruce Swanson for coming to Walmart, helping pick up the items and take them over to the CHIP office. And then Autumn and her staff packed those backpacks. She's going to tell you about what happened next. Her name is Autumn Williams, and she is Chief Operations Officer. Thanks.
Hello. Betsy and I were talking back and forth about this event, and I gave her an option. I said, I can send you a paragraph that shares our appreciation, or I can come firsthand and talk to you about the impact of the backpacks. Because again, we just think this is 42 kids that got a backpack. It's no big deal. But if you all really think in the past several years, let's just talk about the past 5 years that we've done this. The average school bus will hold 72 elementary kids. And I think it's very, very, very easy to say that thanks to the Kiwanians, we have sent 3 to 4 school buses full of kids to school with backpacks and school supplies. And that is not a small feat. With Child Health Investment Partnership, all of our families are qualified for Medicaid. They're all below the poverty level. And so having school supplies in a backpack is one extra expense. And let's face it, those expenses are going up every single day. And thanks to your generous efforts, we've got kiddos that have a strong start to school. They're going to school with a clean backpack. They've got their school supplies. And you guys will see in your newsletter that comes out, I shared some photos. We hosted our back to school celebration last Monday, where we passed out these school supplies, backpacks, and our kiddos were able to come and get free haircuts, free back to school shoes. We had a lot of community partners that came just to ensure that every single family, regardless of whether they were a CHIP enrolled family or not, has a strong start back to school. So on behalf of all the families that we serve and all of our staff, thank you so much for your generous contribution. It really does make a tremendous impact on every single family.
Thank you. Autumn sent me those pictures yesterday, and I'll get them to Alex Barge today so that they will be in next week's newsletter, but please look for them. They're terrific. Next, Milton. As I've said before, Sherry Hartman's legacy is a $400,000 playground, and now Horton Park. Don Witt brought us the rubber chicken. I bring you Milton Hardy.
That's right. Best thing you ever done in your life. Good God, high five me. All right. I'm so grateful that we have our members here. How many are proud to be a Kiwani?
Woo!
There you go.
That was weak.
That was weak as water. How many people? Let me ask one more time. How many are proud to be a Kiwani? That's a little bit better. Well, we have now something that we can get some feedback when we have meetings and when we have guests. And I don't like when people put words in my mouth, but for this, I'll take an exception. Because now we have a nice box that you can put different things for our guests. You can actually put a feedback in at the end and ask if you bring a guest, make sure they put some words in my mouth. So this beautiful box that we have, we ask that you actually put some words in my mouth, tell us what you think about our meeting, things that you like, what you didn't like, things that we can do better. Put some words in my mouth. Thank you.
Thank you, Milton.
Announcements today. The Capital District Ducky Derby. Joyce, do you want to say something? She's coming. Oh my gosh. You want me to hold that?
Oh, that'd be great. Joyce Montgomery with the Ducky Derby. I haven't been talking about this, but baskets are part of the Caring Corner, which is also the foundation's money raising. And at the convention, everybody brings baskets and then they sell tickets and you put it in and they have a drawing at the end. Donna Lynch was so kind to do our basket for us. And John and I will take it to the convention on Friday. So I want to give a big shout out for Donna, who was so kind to do that for us. So thank you, Donna. One year before last, I think John won 3 baskets.
Six. I said on the elevator, I'm a little embarrassed, and a woman said, "You should be."
And they were heavy. It was not a pretty sight for John to be trying to carry these 3 baskets. But anyway, our Ducky Derby that we've been selling here today for the Foundation for the Pediatric Trauma Facility, which will go to Carilion, the part that they divide for us. The goal for the foundation was $15,000. Right now, they're at 8,200. But now that it's getting close, people are really starting to put money in. So I'm sure it'll go on up. The drawing is Saturday. John and I will be there and hopefully bring home some gifts that some of y'all have won. I want to thank 43 Kiwanis have supported the Ducky Derby. And for that, I want to thank you very much. And in my head, I had a goal that I really wanted to get to. And it was not looking like it was going to make it. But today, you put me over my goal. We have brought in $1,025. I am so proud because that was my goal, 1,000. So we're over the hump, which right now we are in first place. Danville is behind us with 715. And Beckley, West Virginia put in a big hunk the other day, 250 at one time, put them in third place above Richmond. So there might be some battling going on eventually before it's over. But I'm very proud and thank you very much for all that you did to support the Ducky Derby. Thank you.
Yeah, John was surprised, but his was the only name that was taped to the bottom of the jar. Let's see, Dave Spangler, do you have signups on the table?
Yes.
Good.
Matter of fact, there are 2 different signups on the table, 2 signups for the same thing, for the dance coming up a week from tomorrow, the 24th, at the American Legion. The pretty one, Lois did, oops, and the not so pretty one, I did. So, but they'll both get you there. Please sign up. It's going to be fun. We're going to have refreshments. You're welcome to bring snacks and things like that if you'd like. But it's 6 to 8 on Thursday, a week from tomorrow, at the American Legion. And Don and I will be there. If you're not a dancer, but you want to be a dancer, we can help you with that. If you're a dancer, you'll definitely have a good time. If you just want to be social and watch other people dance, that's fine too. It's going to be a fun time. Be there or be square.
Let me have one of those. I haven't signed.
Greg Lineberger, talk to us a little bit about upcoming bocce. I'm excited about this.
Woo, woo.
All right, so we do a lot in the community, we do a lot of service, but we also like to have a good time. And this bocce tournament is all about having a good time. So it's going to be October 21st, a little bit later, so hopefully not quite so hot. We're starting at noon, and I think we'll go for, probably take 2.5 hours, something like that. We're going to be playing the same fields as last year, some beautiful soccer pitch right down by the river. And let me just tell you, I don't know if you've played bocce before. Most of the bocce I played is on the beach. It's fun, but it's lumpy. And this is truly, you can get technical. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can really play some bocce on these courts. They're just beautiful. Last year we had an earlier start because it was a hotter part of the year. So we served Bloody Marys and mimosas. I think this year we'll probably switch it up to beers and seltzers and stuff like that. So far I have Clark Goodman, Ben Spiker, and Milton Hardy are on my bocce committee. That committee's most important decision is going to be to decide what adult beverages are served and what other refreshments are provided. So clearly I have recruited talented expert individuals on such matters, but if anybody else wants to throw their hat in, we'd love to have a couple more join us on the committee. We're going to have 2 new kind of tweaks to this year's tournament. So it is competitive. We're trying to win, and you play a round robin and then move forward, and then we'll be an ultimate champion. But we're going to have a second competition, which is best dressed. Now, best dressed is a team competition. So it is both you and your teammate, can't go solo. And best dressed is really, your call. If you're a proud Wahoo, I'm saying UVA head to toe, hat, belt, suspender, socks, show it all. If you're a 49ers fan, I want to see your best tracksuit, whatever you got, man, let it rip. Seriously, this is an opportunity to show off your personality. It's about 10 days before Halloween. So if you guys already have your Halloween costumes figured out and want to break them out for another round, go for it. Okay. I don't care how you dress up, but just have some fun with it, show off your personality, and let's relax. The other thing is we want to try to do a better job of inviting guests. And I can't think of a better event to introduce somebody to kind of the Kiwanis culture than something like a fun bocce tournament where we're all dressed up and having a big time, right? So to incentivize that, I haven't finalized pricing quite yet. I'm guessing it's going to be around $50 a team. That's what it was last year. If we get pretty good attendance, maybe we can get closer to 40. I'm just trying to ballpark it here. But for guest non-Kiwanians, half off. So yes, you Kiwanians, full price. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. But if you have a guest team, somebody else you want to bring in, let's incentivize, let's make it easy. So we're going to go half price again. I'll get that. I got to sit down with a spreadsheet this afternoon and kind of figure out what the numbers say. But we'd love to see not just a big turnout inside the club, but a way to welcome a few additional folks to kind of what we're all about. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. It'll be a good time. I think last time we played, was it Clark Goodman that? Yeah, Clark Goodman took it home.
Defending champion.
And before that, I believe it was Reeve Kessler's daughter and son-in-law. Is that right? Is that who won? Yeah. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And the field that they provide us is just absolutely gorgeous. I wish my yard could look like that. See where we are. We do have brag bucks if you can keep them to a couple of minutes. Here comes Bruce Swanson. I noticed Bruce Swanson's socks. Show me your socks, Bruce.
It's my Yorkshire Terrier. Socks. Oh, there you go. His name is Louis.
There you go.
All right. I had no idea that was coming. I didn't realize my socks were that obvious. So 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of, as a guest, bringing Bree Dickerson
who works for downtown Roanoke. And several people know her already. She was a former police officer downtown, and now she works as the operations manager. So on your table, I try to get one on everybody's table, is a report from downtown Roanoke. And I think it's a wonderful guide to downtown. If you just page through it and look at it, it's a great promotional bit of information about our great town. So very informative, lots of great statistics. The other thing I want to do is honor Bree because she signed the very first comment card. And it is in the box. I think it's the only one in the box. And I had to take it with me because the box was being massaged and looked at that particular day. It was like pride of ownership. Nobody really wanted to give it up. So I brought it a couple of weeks later, but even then, I think it's still Bree is the #1 comment card for the comment box. So I'm going to do all of this in Bree's honor. Thank you.
Many of you were really excited to have Sarah Mellendy with us, who was with Mountain Time Honey and very interested in all things bee. So I wanted to make you aware that if you really want to know something about bees, that you should find yourself going to Buchanan on Saturday from 9 to 2, which is the Honey Festival. So there will be over 40 vendors at the festival, over 15 of which are independent beekeepers. There will be samples, and it's all things honey and bees. So if you want to see Sarah again, along with a lot of other bee people, you should be there on Saturday because all the cool kids will be there. Yeah, be there.
Yeah. We got
I'm Secretary John Montgomery, and I wanted to do a $2 brag as a follow-up to defend myself for winning 3 baskets at the last convention. Seriously, it was embarrassing to win 3, but what Joyce didn't tell you is that you buy the chances. What you do is vote. There's be about 50 baskets around the room, of which Donna Lynch is gone, I guess, but I'm sure none will be any better than what Donna Lynch prepared. But some of them will be filled with jelly, and some will be filled with peanuts, and some will be filled with coffee and various things, books. There's some of those. And then you buy chances by, I think it's $20, you get a certain number of tickets. And I bought quite a few tickets, I admit that, but I didn't expect my ticket to be drawn at 3 of the 50. It was awkward. And but that money contributes a substantial amount to the Capital District Foundation too, and not as much as our Ducky Derby, but I will sneak in here. I'm so proud of Joyce's effort to get over $1,000 when the whole district has got 8,500 now, and maybe 15,000, whatever it ends up. 1,000 from our club is tremendous, and thanks to all of you for supporting it. And if I win a basket, I'm going to bring it to the meeting. I sure will, Don. Thank you for adding that. The Division 15, and we've had several lieutenant governors, most recently prior to April Farmer, I was our own Don Witt for a couple of years. Before that, it was High Nicely. Before that, it was Lloyd Enoch. And others in the room have been Lieutenant. Gary Duerk has been lieutenant governor over the years. Our division has 9 clubs. And right now, our division is over $2,000, which there are 20 divisions. I realize it's a lot of numbers, but 1 out of 20 to have $2,000 of the 15 is tremendous. And our club continues to lead the way. Thank you for that.
All right, with that, Emily, would you like to introduce our speaker?
Yes, I'd love to. So I met Tim. Tim is with Mountain Castle Soil Water Conservation. And I met him when Jason and I bought our house in Botetourt and had some conversation with a former employee about our septic system, and learned that the subdivision that we live in has quite a few failed septic systems, and how important it was for me to make sure that we were pumped and inspected and all the good things that you love to talk about when it comes to sewage. So I ended up getting in touch with Tim, and was part of the reimbursement program that this organization offers to have our septic pumped and inspected. And thankfully, so far, so good. We have not had to have anything replaced, and we hope it stays that way. Tim has been the education and outreach coordinator for Mountain Castles for 8 years and assumed the role of district coordinator in the spring of 2023. Prior to that, he was a middle school teacher for 15 years. He is a 2-time graduate of Virginia Tech with a BS in forestry and wildlife and master's in curriculum and instruction. He is also an instructor in the Leadership and Social Change Residential College of Virginia Tech. In his free time, Tim runs Muddy Squirrel LLC, a Botetourt County-based business that organizes the Buchanan Tribe, the Virginia Blue Ridge Grand Fondo, and the Fincastle Ghost Walk. He is a cyclist, trail runner, and ultramarathon runner. Tim and his partner, Lisa, have been lucky enough to run trails throughout the US, the Canadian Rockies, the Scottish Highlands, New Zealand, the French Alps, and the Matterhorn in Switzerland. He strongly believes that trails and rivers connect us to community, both natural and human, to past and to the future. Would you please join me in welcoming Tim?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Emily, and thanks so much for having me. If you're like me, I like to know something about the person speaking who I don't really know. So I thought I would share a few photos. On the left, there's Lisa and I on day 4, I think, of our 8-day race across the Scottish Highlands. That's a whole presentation all in itself. We won't go into all that today, but it was great. The blue sky in the background is the only blue sky we saw in 8 days. So, it was awesome. On the right, my people, right? So Silas and Georgia, my high school aged kids, and Esther, who's just a mess, but that's in the Blue Ridge near home in Buchanan. On the left, you can kind of see us there. That was a couple of months ago. We attempted a sky race in Crow's Nest Pass, British Columbia, in Canada. And the mountains in the background, we'd already summited those and descended before we got to the ones in the foreground. So that was a long, fun day. One where I thought I might die, but didn't. And on the right, we were lucky enough to travel to New Zealand in Fiordland National Park this winter. Summer there, yay. And that was a really great experience. So travel's been important to us, but also home. And I think the trails and water, rivers do connect us. And I've always been drawn to this quote from Rumi, let the beauty we love be what we do. And for me, in my personal life, I feel like I've tried my best to make that work. But I'm also fortunate enough to where I feel like I also make that work in my professional life. So for 8 years, I was the education and outreach coordinator for Mountain Castles Soil and Water Conservation District. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Soil and Water Conservation District. So I failed miserably, is my point. Yeah, so I think we're probably the best kept secret in the Commonwealth, right? So my goal today is really to not only brag about us a little bit and what we do and how we give most of our money away. It sounds familiar, right? Maybe. But also how we can't do this work without partners. We have about a $3.5 million annual budget. We have a 2-person staff. Me and my colleague Dan Hatfield. You'll see him put up in a second. So without further ado, where we come from. Soil and water districts came out of the Dust Bowl, along with other federal programs. We're a strange beast. We're not federal, we're not state. We're technically a political subdivision of the Commonwealth. But the focus there was definitely on soil loss and soil erosion and soil health. And while we still talk about soil health and encourage soil health, both with farmers and homeowners, we shifted a lot to water. Many of you may be familiar with the Chesapeake Bay program. We've been trying to save the Bay for a long, long time, I feel like. We're not there yet, but we still have 5 more years, according to General Assembly. We'll see. We're working hard to get there. But that's a big part of what we do. Politically, that's where a lot of our funding comes from. But I realize that we're not sitting in that watershed right now, and you matter too. So Even though a lot of our programs are heavily funded toward the Bay, what I'll talk about today will be applicable to really all waters in Virginia. So there we are, Mountain Castles, we serve Botetourt and Craig. We're one of 47 districts across the state. Anybody know who serves Roanoke? Blue Ridge Soil and Water, right? So their office in Rocky Mount. But whether you reach out to them or to me, we'll make sure that you find the right contact for whatever need that you have from us. Oh no. We have a weird, strange PC to Apple problem here. Maybe let me see. Well, that was going to be a photo of our board of directors, but we'll pass that one. We operate on a locally local board of directors. They are elected. It is an election year, so if nothing else today, when you see soil and water district directors on your ballot in November, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know they're important. We're usually unopposed, but it still helps if you just bubble in their name. Makes them feel better. Most of our directors are farmers. That's not true in every district. The nice thing about 47 districts is there are 47 different ways to do things. And some districts have more farmer representation than others. We're pretty heavy in the farmer direction. Where does our money come from? Majority of our funding comes from DCR. You may know these more as the state park people, but they are the Department of Conservation first and Recreation, the Soil and Water Division. We operate on a couple of continuing grants from them. By the way, the most money we get is from them. Our localities also contribute some. Craig County, smaller locality is more in kind. They help us with books and payroll. Botetourt County, financial supporter. Something, I guess an ask from me to use the comment box next week. Right, so I noticed Amy White is going to speak next week. She's a member of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors. Maybe you could drop in the box, please give Mountain Castles a little more money. Because it's, I didn't say that. Our claim to fame is the VAX program. It's called the Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program. So it's a reimbursement program. We call that cost share. So farmers are eligible to apply for different practices that would help water quality on their farm. Our board approves it. Our conservation technician, Dan Neff, helps work up a plan. And then they implement the practice. They pay for it. We reimburse them. That reimbursement amount can range from 75% to 100%. These practices are often expensive and really cost prohibitive on the farm. So we're very happy to be able to help make that work out financially. Partners are a big part of what we do. So I would consider our directors partners. Certainly they give up their time for no salary to help us out and run the our district. Contractors, you see me in this picture, are also partners. They're not doing the work, and they're not doing the work properly. These practices don't happen either. This is why we do what we do. Cattle in the creek, historically, is just how we did things. And for many producers, it's really tough to change. We don't like change. I don't like change. You don't like change. Nobody likes change. So what's the problem with this picture? Again, this is focused for Chesapeake Bay data. It's a couple of years old, but still, it's true everywhere and it still applies now. The biggest source of pollution, nutrient pollution, is agricultural runoff. And you're like, wait, I thought nutrients were good. Nutrients on land and soil are fantastic. But once they get in the water, we get algae blooms and less oxygen for fish and aquatic life and dead zones. And all that goes downstream Chesapeake Bay or wherever it's going. More about that in a second. And causes problems downstream. So ag runoff is still the biggest. It's not the fastest growing. More about that later. So this is a big thing that we can do to help out with the Bay. how do we get these critters not there? So our best tools are a fence and a water trough. If you notice on the right-hand side, the fence is set back from the stream. In some cases, we're talking about several hundred feet of a small tributary. In some cases, we're talking about miles of a much larger stream. So that the cost can really add up. If we fence cattle out of the stream, how in the world do they drink? The photo on the left is a watering trough, pretty common brand. You can see it's surrounded by concrete pad and gravel, so there's less erosion around the pad, around the trough. That trough is connected to an underground pipeline, which is connected to a well, so they're drinking fresh water from a well, not sketchy creek water. All that can cost lots of money, so that's where we come in. We also have a lot of cover crop contracts. So maybe you've driven around in the country where it's January, February, and you look at a green field, you're like, whoa, what are they growing in February? Often it's a cover crop. The idea here is that soil stays in place during the winter rains, doesn't wash off the field when the main crop's been harvested. Just kind of biding its time, still there, still being fed by soil organisms. So when the time comes to plant in the spring, it's ready to go. So we call share on fertilizer and time to place, and the crop itself to place cover crops on the fields in the off season. Lots of partners. Look, Dave Perry, look. Yes, a lot of land conservancies reach out to us, or habitat producers reach out to us. A lot of easements require stream exclusion with the cattle. So if that's not already in place, we're happy to work with folks like Blue Ridge and Valley Conservation Council to make those things happen. We have state partners, and we've been without an extension agent in Bottom Craig for about 6 months. Neither county has one, and it's really affected our work. Those are important folks. A lot of our buffers that we create are planted in trees, so Department of Forestry is involved with that as well. FSA and RCS, both federal partners. We allow them heavily for training, their manuals, oral support, all those things. So again, with our 2-person office, without having these other folks, we really can't do this work. All right, so any guesses as to the fastest growing problem? It's not ag. Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's the residential one. The 17% urban and suburban stormwater runoff. So we have a conservation assistance program. I love this program because if you look statewide, there are fewer and fewer farms, unfortunately. And in some parts of the state, like Northern Virginia, there are almost no farms. So how does soil and water districts stay relevant? And our BCAP program is one way. Anybody can apply for this if they're a homeowner. It's trying to address stormwater runoff in your yard at its source. So from downspouts or driveways, heavy slope backyards or front yards, we're trying to intercept water before it hits the stream. The whole idea with pollution is that stormwater is carrying hitchhikers, whether it be fertilizer or bacteria from animal waste, whatever. If we can make that stormwater infiltrate the ground before it reaches the stream, we want. So that's really the point of all these practices. This is a rain garden that has just been dumped on. I think it was like a 3-inch rain in an hour on a thunderstorm. And it worked. It caught the rain. 6 hours later, that rain garden was dry. We also can do conservation landscaping. Who needs turf grass anyway, right? So we can replace turf grass, which drains very poorly, with something, not just a better receptor of water, but also pollinator habitat for bees, and appearance as well. Looks nicer than grass, I think. Again, we can't do this without partners. We're a 2-person staff. I'm the one who does this. We have a separate intern for BCAP, but the Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts is the ones who really organize our training, our programs. They're the ones who make this happen. They approve the applications. A lot of folks utilize Virginia Master Gardeners. to help with the implementation, which would be really, really important. Like what's a native plant? We have to have folks to help them navigate through that. And we have some problems in this area with landscapers. Most landscapers are not really tuned in to using plants to solve runoff problems. They kind of like riprap. So trying to get landscapers trained in other ways besides maybe conventional methods to deal with stormwater has been important. So Chesapeake Bay landscape professionals have been great for providing that. We got one left that we'll deal with. We won't talk about air pollution today, sorry. Septic. If you're lucky enough to live in a place with a public sewer, most of us are, many of us are. I'm not in my backyard, and I'll be honest, having been working with septic program for 4 years, I do get an occasional panic attack. I've seen the worst that can happen. We are fortunate enough to be able to work in an area related to the Roanoke River watershed, where we are able to do some septic for homeowners. The Roanoke River is impaired for bacteria, so the septic program helps alleviate bacterial issues. If your drain field's not working right, it's a good chance that bacteria is going into the river. So we spent about $120,000 in the last year or so in a very small neighborhood, actually, working with Virginia DEQ and Health Department to repair, replace, even do pump outs as preventative maintenance for septic. One last thing. Yeah, so for us, going out on the limb means education. We are a small staff, I've said a couple of times. Our board are all farmers, but they've been extremely encouraging about our K-12 program and our adult program as well. A few years ago, I guess this past spring, we've been doing this paddle trip with 7th graders on the James River for about the past 4 years. We found that even though students are from Botetourt County, which is a pretty, I don't know, adventuresome, outdoor-based county still, a lot of folks had never paddled on the James. So we wanted to make sure that every student had the opportunity to connect with that river. Bruce Ingram was a teacher at Botetourt. I wrote a blog for Virginia DWR. So again, I mean, more partners make all this work. Again, trying to highlight the connections that we're trying to create and trying to show. Just want to highlight some partners. Virginia Tech, I teach a leadership class there through the lens of conservation. We go out to this Catawba Sustainability Center twice a year with 6th graders to do a field trip in Catawba Creek. If your license plate has gone funky and it's time for a new one, strongly suggest the blue crab plate. We get money from the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund every year, which funds our 7th grade paddle. They do great work, not just in education, but in restoration efforts as well. Partners galore, right? We even help out the Blue Ridge Land Conservancy with Bay Day coming up soon, right? And lots of programs ourselves. We can't do this without the schools. And while it's sometimes difficult to work with because all those school rules and the bus has to be back at 1:30 or something crazy like that, we do appreciate the work that they do to help us do our work. So lots of partners that are involved in the day-to-day and in grant funding. And sometimes I just need to borrow stuff from King Valley Council, and they're like, sure, Tim, you can borrow. So bottom line is the hardest thing that we do, most challenging thing that we do as a district is not the budget or not the quarterly report, not even the middle school kids we have to work with. It's actually forming relationships. It takes time, takes energy, so worth it. And we couldn't do a fraction of what we do without those relationships. So, final note, I want to challenge you a little bit today to kind of rethink our relationships with things that we don't normally think of as that way, right? So often we talk about the James or other rivers as a resource that we need to manage. But I'd like to challenge you maybe today to think about those things not as a resource to be managed, but maybe as a friend who needs a helping hand, as a neighbor who could use a lift. Maybe you're going to take that bowl of soup because they're sick, how do we do that with the river? Whether it's the upper James like this near Buchanan, or all the way downstream Chesapeake Bay and everywhere in between. These are the places that could use some help. The Roanoke, I wouldn't forget you, right? Roanoke River. Anybody know where downstream is, the Roanoke River? Where does it go? Oh, the rock stars. Yeah. Albemarle Sound, sure. And everywhere in between, even though across the state lines, we still love it. Right? We're lucky enough in our district where we have water that goes to all three of these places. This is the new. So in Craig County, some of our water flows to New River, which ultimately goes. You didn't know you were going to get a quiz today. I am a recovering teacher. Yeah, go from Mexico. So maybe you have time for a question or two. Do you have one? Yes. My favorite answer, it depends.
Please repeat the question.
Oh, how healthy is the Roanoke River on a scale of 1 to 10? It is officially impaired, and I'm not a DEQ person. I just do the work they tell me to do. But it's impaired for bacteria. What does that mean exactly? I wouldn't drink it. Is it enough that we're spending a lot of money in that watershed for septic? Yeah. Any river that goes through an urban environment is going to have problems. Maybe a little dirtier than I would like. Maybe I'll leave it at that. But we're doing the work, right? But it's going to take all of us, whether stormwater folks, people in their backyard. One thing that often gets overlooked or see people dismiss, especially in my community, which is a lot of small towns, is like, why would I clean up after my pet? Like, really? You come to the city and that's like, oh, of course you do that, right? So little things like that the park is right next to the river or right next to the stream that goes into the river. Yeah, but it takes all of us. Yeah.
Have you been involved in many discussions where a farmer or land user might want to use bamboo as a buffer or a cash crop or any way to deter water pollution or?
Ooh, that's a good question. No, not bamboo. Typically, when they're working with the Department of Forestry, where they're working with hardwoods and a variety of trees that are on their menu and things that they like to see. Normally, we don't like to have the buffer disturbed. So if it's something they wouldn't really be able to harvest and utilize, but other fiber for other places on the farm, potentially. Most of our farms are fairly traditional, and they're mostly livestock. Mostly, yeah.
Regulates the setbacks.
Off the river, it'd be as far as I know, it'd be the local zoning board would be following DEQ policies and EPA policies as to what, if there are any regulatory things, and the local board would make that final decision. Sometimes I get asked about erosion sediment control. Some districts have a really strong relationship with ENS or ENS department. We really don't work with them at all. They kind of have their own thing going for day-to-day construction and setbacks and that kind of thing. Yeah. Yes. No, and actually some of the VCAP practices, it's my understanding, living in a place without a stormwater tax. Some of our VCAP practices could actually reduce your stormwater tax, like the rain gardens and conservation housekeeping that VCAP offers. But if you're interested with that in Roanoke, I would definitely reach out to Blue Ridge Stormwater and kind of say, hey, and they're happy to come out and take a look at the site and make some suggestions. Maybe help you find a contractor, get more into detail. It's a great program. Make your tax less, why not?
All right.
Awesome, thanks.
Tim, it's our custom to provide an honorarium for a speaker. This week, the honorarium goes to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. All right. Next week, Amy White will present the Virginia Western Community College STEM program, STEM program. It's going to be introduced by Emily. And if there's nothing more, I say we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah. What's that about? You didn't tell me about this one. I want to go.